Yeah, so yeah, and just to say a quick word about that, yeah, the meeting is being recorded, but only for other members of the group, and the recording will be on YouTube, but again, that's not widely available. It will only be available to anyone who has the actual link, which I will send out to you tomorrow when I'm home. So yes, sorry about that interruption, Mavis.
So who's everybody else? And where are you?
Well, I just jump in.
Yep.
I'm Donna. I'm in Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah, and I know a wee bit about the principles. Kind of became aware of it a number of years ago. So I've, always kind of been interested, and read and listened to podcasts about it, and so it's been in my mind for a number of years now.
Sweet. That is a big cow behind you.
I know everybody comments on the cow.
Thanks, Donna. Who's next?
Oh, my name's Annette, and I live in Paisley, just outside Glasgow. And I think I've just recently heard about the principles through a coaching course that I was doing, and I'm not really sure if I'm all that interested in the principles. On one level it seems easy, and at another level it seems quite difficult. But I'm interested in having the conversations to find out a bit more about the principles and see if it's something that I might use in the work that I do. So thank you for listening.
Great.
Thanks, Annette.
I can go now, Christian, if you like. It's Alexandra.
Sure, please.
My camera has decided not to work this morning, so that's why there's just my photograph there. And I live on Vancouver Island, which is off the west coast of British Columbia. And I've been learning about the principles for about 4 years, I guess, and I love it.
Great.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, I'll go next. I'm Marie, and I live in Glasgow, quite near Christian, and I've been connecting in with the three principles for, actually, I don't actually know, 8 years maybe, and through Christian. So that's been great. And I know a few people on the call who've been on other courses that Christian's run, and David, Lynn, Joe. So nice to see them all and nice to meet new people. And I've heard one thing that you've done, Mavis. I heard an interview with you once, and it was really good. So I thought, yeah, I definitely want to do this.
Great. It's so nice to hear these Scottish accents. You all sound like Sid Banks. Really nice. It took me a while to understand what he was saying, but I got used to it. And I just love it. Your tongue is more involved in English. At least American English.
I've got a London accent, actually. I've got a London accent.
It's a little different than Annette's. Christian.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah. I love the Scottish accent though as well. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting how many different ways there are to say the same thing?
Who's next?
I'll go next. Hi, everyone. Hi, Marie. Hi, David. Hi, Christian. Hello. I forget what the question is, but I live north of Glasgow. I'm here because I've been around the principles for, can't remember how long, but a good few years now, and kind of forget about it, and then I come back to it again and remember about it, and then forget it again. So I'm here to remember it again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting everybody and getting to know you, Mavis, as well. I've watched a few of your videos, so looking forward to this.
And I can jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm David. I'm east of Glasgow, about 10 miles. I think I was introduced to the principles maybe 8 years ago. I've not done one of these types of, I don't know, it's not a training, is it a training? No, just a meeting for quite some time. So when Christian had mentioned it and said that she was doing it with you, Mavis, I immediately said, yeah, I'd love to join in. So thank you.
Great.
Nice
else?
beard, David. I like your beard. Looks good.
Thanks, Marie. Sorry, I had trouble coming off mute there. My mum absolutely hates it. So I get told yesterday that I needed to get a haircut and have a shave.
I'll go next if you like.
Sure.
I'm Jo. I'm in Australia on the East Coast. I have been around the principles for, I'm not sure how long either, maybe, I think since 2000, about 2012. I've heard Mavis speak a few times, and it's mostly been in the wee small hours of the morning. So it's only 1 a.m. at the moment, so it's more manageable. So yeah, I'm really looking forward. I love hearing how you kind of talk about the principles, Mavis, and I think the hardest thing for me is actually sharing them. So, and it's something I want to, but I find it really difficult. So, yeah. So thank you. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this.
Just all these different time periods, but it's always just now everywhere. Isn't that interesting? When I was a kid, when somebody would say, well, it's Tuesday in Germany or whatever, and it wasn't Tuesday where I was, it was Monday. And I thought it would be a really good idea if we called up somebody in Germany so we could find out what happens. It took me a while to see that wasn't quite the way it worked.
The future's okay here at 1 a.m. on Thursday morning, anyway.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Joan. And we still have a few of you.
I'll go next. Hi, Mavis, and hi, Christian. So
Hi,
I'm in
Mavis.
Oxfordshire. Hi, lovely to see you again, Christian. It's been a while, and it's got to be about 2 months since I've been heard you, Mavis. So I feel I need my Mavis fix. It's always lovely to listen in to how you share such a beautiful way of yeah, talking about the principles. So thank you.
Thank you.
Natalie.
Hello. Sorry, I'm trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I'm Natalie. Hello. Trying to stop waving at Zoom one of these days. I am in the south of England, sort of east of Oxfordshire, in Hertfordshire, and I have been probably just listening to the three principles for about 3 years. I came to it really interesting through my kids' school, who were doing something called mental well-being in schools, and they were doing it for the kids. And I went to a talk, and it was kind of transformational in the sense of I have 3 daughters, 3 in 3 years, and so it was we have a very busy life, and it was really tough 3 years ago, and anyway, so I started looking into all of the readings around the 3 principles with the kids, and then I started doing some kind of one-to-one work with a friend of mine called Ed Turner, Ed Anthony, and really transformed our family. And so he is a huge fan of Mavis's. So when I saw this, it was just, sometimes when all things align, and I was like, aha, Christian, Mavis, this is a good time. So that's why I'm here. So thank you for having me.
You are very welcome. Yeah.
I'll go next. I'm Jackie, and I'm from Colchester, England. I've kind of discovered the principles 3-4 years ago. I did practitioner training at the end of last year and beginning of this year, and it was all, I was doing really well, and then I separated from my husband, and everything's fell apart, and I feel like I've forgotten everything and lost everything, and I don't know. I kind of just feel like fell out of the whole understanding, and so I'm looking for inspiration to get back into it.
All right, lovely. Thank you. Gary, are you able to speak, or Khalifa? I'm trying to see if there's anyone else we haven't heard from.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Mavis. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm speaking from Kuwait, and I came through this understanding, I think 2.5, 3 years, and I'm looking forward to explore and learn more. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Oh.
You too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gary?
I'm on mute. Hi, I'm Gary. I live in Manchester. I met Christiane maybe 4 or 5 years ago and attended a Jack Pransky event in Glasgow. Like some of the people on the call that I've heard, I've dipped in and out, lost my mind, found my mind, and lost it again in this journey. And I'm just interested to hear from Mavis, as I got an invite from Christiane, because your name keeps popping up in books, Mavis, that I've read many times when I've not seen it before. So I thought that was a good indicator as well.
Great. Oh, what a group. Have we talked to everyone that's on?
I think we have.
Okay. I should probably tell you one thing about me. I know I'm supposed to look at the camera when I talk to you. I have to see people's faces. I just can't do it. So take that into account, please. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to look at that little green dot and talk. This is, it's my favorite thing to do, to pass on the best information I ever got in my life. And with all of you, it's the same with me. I keep learning the same thing, only deeper. And I forget. And fortunately, I don't forget for very long, but I still forget. And I just want you to know that there isn't a time Don't expect a time when you're not gonna forget. That doesn't mean anything. It just means you forgot. And then you remember, and then you remember again, then you remember again, and you just, I think the biggest difference for me now when I forget is I don't care. It's like, so what? I know I'm going to be smarter again any minute. I just don't think I'm making a big mistake, or I don't know what I know, or that none of that is true. I just had a bunch of junk mail come into my head and I opened it and that was that. So it's it doesn't mean anything. So I also don't kind of name what I do the 3 principles, and that's partly because I've been around, I don't know, 4 or 5 different names about it in all the time I've learned about it. So I just don't, you never know, somebody might change it again. So I just don't call it. And really all the principles is a description of how we are. The principles aren't a thing. It's like gravity is the name for magnetic pull. It just is. So the principles just describe what is about us. And the what is about us is that we are divinely made. We are an engineering wonder. We have so many apps. We're not going to be so impressed with electronics anymore once you start realizing how many apps you have. It's like, for instance, before you guys got on, I was talking to Christian about one of the things that Sid used to say all the time is just follow a feeling, follow a feeling. And I had no idea what the man was talking about. And one day, my daughter, who at the time was a massage therapist, was talking about somebody that she had worked on that was really stressed. And I said, well, she was working on his back. And she said, boy, he's really stressed. I said, what do you mean by that? And she says, well, she knew about the principles too. She said, well, he just worries a lot. I said, well, did you ask him that? No, I can feel it. And she said, emotions are physical sensations. I went, they are? I had no idea. I wonder now how I could have missed that. But when we say we're always feeling our thoughts, we mean it. We feel it physically. You cannot sneak any thought by your body. Your body is letting you know 24/7 the quality of the experience you're creating with your thinking. Now, I think that's about the handiest thing ever. It's like nobody has anyone in their life, no matter how much they may have your back, they're not that good at it. They can't let you know instantly whether you're using your thinking to create suffering or whether you're using it to experience joy or gratitude or kindness or generosity or homicidal tendencies or what. They're letting you know instantly how you're using the gift of thought. It's as simple as that. And the only thing hard about that is that we tend to think it can't be that simple. We're so used to complicating things. overthinking things, trying to figure out everything, analyzing, processing. When right under our nose, literally, is this body that's letting us know how we're creating our experience, letting us know instantly. For instance, if I suggested to each of you that you say, close your eyes. In fact, I am suggesting it. Close your eyes and get yourself a little irritated. We're not going for homicidal here, just a little irritated. And then notice where in your body you feel that. And when you notice, put your hand on where you felt it. Take your time. Did you feel it? Some of you felt it in your chest. Some of you felt it in your head, your neck, your stomach. Now, recreate that irritation, that sensation. And this time, put your attention on that sensation and follow it wherever it wants to go. Not your thinking now, just create the irritation and follow the sensation wherever it wants to go. Take your time. What do you notice? Anybody?
I ended up feeling really relaxed because I eventually just couldn't hold it anymore, and then just sort of started deep breathing and felt quite nice. I don't know if that's right or wrong. Or
anybody else?
This is Alexandra. I noticed something similar. It was hard to hold on to the sensation. It kept sort of slipping away and I would have to recreate it.
That's interesting. And as soon as I hear from some more people, I'll speak to that, Alexandra. Thank you for that.
So this is David. I forgot what I was annoyed about, and then had to think about what was I annoyed at, and then just what Alexandra said, recreate it.
Thank you.
I didn't have to work too hard to, because I had a kind of what I find an irritating interaction with someone earlier, where a man was giving me duff advice at the campsite, and when I was very sort of politely saying, "Well, I think that's wrong," you know, and I was really annoyed. But what I found there was that the irritation wanted to sort of, it was in my stomach, but it wanted space, wanted to be released. It wanted to be released. And it just seemed funny to me then, it seemed funny.
Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
Like Christian, I felt mine was sort of in the chest, sort of almost diaphragm, and I felt it wanting to move up. It was almost like I could maybe even, if I held on, yeah, I could even cry, like to release it, just wanted to move. Yeah.
So let me tell you the physics behind what we just did. All thought is emotion, and it's physical. And when you created irritation, you felt it wherever you felt it. When you put your attention on it, it sometimes moved. And what you say about not being able to hold on to is that it dissipates. It, with your attention, it goes away. The reason for that is when you put your attention on that sensation, you took it off the thinking that produced it. And that's all that sensation wanted. Does that make sense? It's that simple. It's not any more complicated than if you put your hand on a hot stove. You know exactly what to do about that. That sensation tells you loud and clear. It's the same with thinking. The same thing would be true if you noticed the feeling that you had of generosity. You'd feel that physically. Don't know where you'd feel it. It's different for everybody. You would feel it. And if you notice that, it would expand. It would be warming. It would be expansive. Does that make sense? That's going on 24/7 in every one of you all the time. That feedback system as to the quality of your thinking, the experience you're creating. If you can see that, it will change your life dramatically. You will get intolerant of suffering. It's good to be intolerant of self-created suffering, don't you think? Yeah. You will notice sooner when you're misusing thought, but you will also notice sooner when you're not. I think it's important, at least it is for me, to see that understanding how you're made isn't about being happy all the time. It isn't about butterflies and moonbeams and petals. It's about being clear. It's about being present so that your inborn wisdom and your common sense fills in the gap where all that noisy thinking was. Excuse me. Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Have you noticed how much easier life is when you're not trying to figure it out? Have you noticed in your life, even if it's only a time or two, have you noticed that when you were trying to figure something out and you got tired of it and you quit, a solution came to you later. It was an aha. You know what to do. It's as simple as trying to remember somebody's name and working at it, and you get tired of it, and 10 minutes later, the name pops into your head. You get out of the way so that you can see the next right step. You can feel it. You are made of wisdom and common sense. You are made of everything you need. I have a client that's a priest. And he's a priest that has a habit of worry. And he's just a dear man. And I was just showing him this. I was just, you know, the universe, universal intelligence, universal energy, otherwise in some circles known as God, or the creator, or the great unknown, or whatever, doesn't make junk, doesn't make mistakes. We are made of wisdom. We're made of that. That isn't something that you have to wait to get till you're my age. Good grief, that doesn't make any sense at all. You're made of it. And when you start being able to tell, when you're creating discomfort, you're creating suffering, you're creating confusion, you're creating all kinds of stuff that doesn't work, and you just know that's just your thinking, and you relax. You might be in the middle of even something that's dangerous, but with a clear head, you have opened the possibility of seeing the next step. So to reiterate, this isn't always about just being happy all the time. It's about being clear and present. Does that make sense? And you can't be any farther away from that than a thought, because it's always now. Yes? Never in your life has it been any other time but now. It's now. Why would you have to wait to be present? Because it's just, the only bite you have to take is now. What would you rather think than be clear? We invented the concept of time. And somebody, I can't remember where I heard this, somebody said we had to do that because otherwise everything had happened at the same time. But the point is, it's always now. Can you see that? It's just, how much time do you think we spend worrying about what was or what might be? I do the same thing. I can get caught up in remembering stories from the past. Most of the time, my habit is to remember things that I did wrong, which is always helpful. It's like, the past doesn't exist. You can't have a better past. Sorry, you just can't. And everybody's past is the story of the best they knew at the time. Period. It's that simple. There's nothing complicated about that. what we're fond of telling ourselves, I should have known. Why? Why should you have known? How actually can you know something until you know it? How? And then when you know it, you can't not know it. You can forget that you know it, but you know it. Can you see how the divine, which is just how everything is, it's can you see how everything is taken care of? Can you see that you were, even if you can't see it, could you entertain the possibility that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you? I'm not asking you to buy it. I'm not asking you to even believe it. But I am asking you to consider the possibility I might be right about that. But there's nothing wrong with you. But I bet every one of you thinks there is. And it starts with, well, yes, but, and then there's this proof that there's something wrong with you. You can all prove it. But you know, everybody on the planet used to believe that it was flat. And they could prove it because people went away and didn't come back. Clearly, they fell off. There's no other explanation. They fell off. Now, it took a while for people to get used to the idea that it was round. I still don't know why people in Australia aren't standing on their heads. Can you explain that to me, Joe? It's like, I don't know why, if we're underneath, we're not upside down. I don't understand. But, you know, I'm just going to take their word for it. So the biggest thing that gets in our way of just realizing we're 100% in charge of the experience we're having. 100%. There isn't anything outside of us that is deciding how we feel inside. But we all have exceptions to that, don't we? Well, yeah, that's true, except when somebody calls me a really nasty name. They made me feel the way I feel. I understand that. But in order for that to be true, everybody that gets called a nasty name has to experience it exactly the same. And we probably agree that that can't be true. I went through all of that when I first heard Sid and others talking about how we're made. I threw everything I could at it. Well, yeah, but what about, you know, I was a single mom at the time with 3 kids. What about when you're a single mom and you have 3 kids and you pretty much never have enough money? That's not my thinking. So there. But eventually I would get around to saying, well, does every single mom with 3 kids that never has enough money feel exactly the same way all the time? No. Well, how about when somebody close to you dies? That's not my thinking. So there. Except, does everybody who has somebody die close to them feel exactly the same way all the time, for the same length of time and the same intensity. No. So the deciding factor in there is the meaning each human being is making each moment. The thinking. That's an amazing gift the universe gave to us, that we are free to experience our life in our own unique way. But we were given a guidance system in order to keep out of too much trouble. And if we don't know that that's what we were given, we can get in a lot of trouble. And the guidance system is the feeling. You don't have an emotion that's wrong. It's all information about the quality of this experience you're creating. It's that simple. And if we don't know that, then we start thinking certain feelings are the enemy, and we try to numb them. We drink too much, we take drugs, we do a lot of things to numb feelings we don't want to have. But it's so innocent because we didn't know they were all on our side. Can you see the innocence in it? But if we examine that, like, okay, say a cook doesn't like getting spattered with grease or oil or hot water or something. So they shoot Novocaine into their hands. Now that'll take care of it. It won't hurt when they get spattered, but they're going to cripple their hands. Yes? You get a rock in your shoe, a little pebble in your shoe. So you shoot Novocaine into your foot because you don't want it to hurt. So it won't hurt, but it's going to make walking really tough. You won't be able to feel when your foot hits the ground. You won't be able to get around very well because your feet are numb. So when we see it that way, it's like outrageous. But we don't see it about when how much our sensations are guiding us in the use of our thinking. We can see it with our hand. Like, you take this perfectly good hand and you bunch it up into a fist. Even if you just walk around like that, it doesn't feel very good. And most of the things that you can do with it like that are going to cause somebody some trouble. Hurts. But you can do it. You have free will. Your hand doesn't go off and do things without your permission. Same with this. Clenched, we're stressed, we're exhausted, we're tired, we feel less than other people. We concern ourselves about controlling the future or rearranging the past. We make our life smaller and smaller and smaller. Relaxed and open. We're geniuses. Imagine what you can do with your hands when they're alive, relaxed and open. Feed yourself and dress yourself and play instruments and flip the pages of a book and scratch itches and pet kittens and hold babies and lift things and set them down and on and on and on. Same with this. It's an amazing thing. I think it's an amazing thing. I still don't know how to explain this, but that when we're clear, when we're just calm and we're in the moment, we're going about our business, we're not making a problem out of anything. We're just taking care of stuff. That we can have a thought that didn't come from our memory. We can have a thought that came to us. From where? Where did it come? I don't know. But if composers know it, inventors know it, artists know it, and we know it. We just don't know we know it. We can have aha. We can see something 1 minute that we didn't see before. And then you can't unsee that. But you can't have a thought that you've never had before by trying to. It's like if I said to you, can you imagine a color you've never seen? Go ahead, try. Can't be done, can it? But can you imagine there might be a color you've never seen? I can. That's what we can do. We can consider the possibility that we're going to see something at any minute, at any time in our life that we didn't see before. And it doesn't mean it's going to come in some big celebratory explosion. It might come on little cat feet. Like, oh, I never thought of that before. Oh. You know, it's that is really why I'm still doing this, because every time I get together with a bunch of folks, somebody's going to ask me a question I never heard before. And I can hardly wait to hear what I have to say about it, because I don't know up here how to answer it, but I know that there's an answer available and I just need to get out of the way. And I'm not made any different than you are. I just trust that intelligence that has nothing to do with what's stored in my brain. I was so delighted to find out I had it. And I used to think it was just for special occasions, but now I know it's for everyday use. That you can just quit trying to figure things out and let information come to you from that inborn wisdom and common sense and knowing that everybody is made of. You want to trust that. It is 100% reliable because it's made of the truth. You are made of that. It's all taken care of. Honest. I'm not making this up. You know what I know. I may be a little more used to knowing that I know it, but you're made of what I know. You're not broken. You're not flawed. You're not missing anything. I just, personally, that's just the best news I ever heard. And I'm still astonished how often I forget it. But I actually don't care. Because I'll remember it soon. So one of the things I want to tell you about me and what I do is that I really like the work that I do to be collaborative. I really like people to ask whatever they want to ask or tell me whatever they want to tell me, because I'm in it also to know what I don't know yet. And I want it to be teamwork. If you're up for it. Actually, I want it even if you're not up for it. But it's your decision. So are there comments? Are there questions? Are there yabbats or how come or what about or? And if I don't know, I'll tell you. This is the quickest way to get silence. But that's not what I'm after, actually.
Hi, Mavis, it's David. Could you, when you say the divine, could you say a little bit more about that? Because I'm not sure. When I hear someone say the divine, I don't know what it is they mean.
Yeah.
I think I know what it means to me, but it'd be good to hear.
What does it mean to you?
So what comes to mind is something that's not me.
This one's not what?
Something that's not me.
Oh.
It feels, I would say it probably feels separate. I don't know how exactly, but when I don't know if that's my Catholic upbringing, where it,
yeah.
So, yeah.
But you're separate from that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, a long time ago, you know, I have a habit sometimes of having a chat with the universe, I call it, but all it is just making a request kind of the unknown. And one night I remember before I went to sleep, I thought to myself, I want to know my purpose. What's my purpose? And I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to do that. I want to know my purpose. And so I said to the universe, excuse me, if you're not busy, could you show me and let me know what my purpose is? I'm going to go to sleep now and it's all on you. It's kind of like that. So I didn't think any more about it. But a few days later, I don't even remember what was going on with me, but it came to me, you know what my job is? It's to make the divine down to earth. It's to help people see that the God or whatever isn't some thing up there that with the right kind of credentials we'll get to meet him or her or whoever. But that holiness, the whole, includes all. It's the oneness of all things that Carl Sagan, the late astrophysicist, tried to explain that scientifically by saying, you know, all the things that stars and planets and air and ground and rocks and flowers, everything has the same stuff in it. And he concluded that whole big long argument in all his books by saying, we're made of stardust. Right? And we actually are made of the same thing as stars. And that's what I want people to see. We're all one. Everything is one. And I think that just brings it down to earth, where we can see the divine or the wholeness doesn't exclude us. We are God. Everything is God. And at the core of every religion is that truth. It certainly does get lost in there, though. But we make a whole bunch of rules about things and completely miss the whole point. We are a perfect part of a perfect whole. And that doesn't mean we do things perfectly, that we think perfectly. It doesn't mean that. But we aren't what we think and what we do. We are part of a complete whole. And I think we shouldn't underestimate that. I think we really need to see we're a big deal. We're just actually wonderful. We don't always behave wonderfully. We don't always speak wonderfully. We don't always treat ourselves wonderfully. But at our core, we are wonderful. And I know that you can all prove you're not. You're mistaken. You're judging yourself by actions, by other people's thoughts, by your ideas of what wonderful is or isn't. That isn't why you're wonderful. Does that make any sense, David?
Yeah, it does. I really got a sense of what you were talking about, but it feels difficult to.
Would you like to believe it?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
That's close enough.
Okay.
To entertain the idea that that might be true.
Okay.
Despite all your proof that it isn't. It might be true anyway. That's enough. Because it'll grow. It'll grow. If you've entertained the idea that there could be some truth in it, you're going to start seeing the truth all over the place because the truth isn't hiding. See, that's the I never see anybody that has anything wrong with them. And that's not luck. That's because nobody has anything wrong with them. But I see people who can prove to me that they do. And my job is just keep seeing who they are and show them why it couldn't possibly be true that there's something wrong with them. But it's not my job to make anybody believe that. But it's true. It's close enough, David, to just consider the possibility that it might be true.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have some thoughts they could throw in the pot?
Well, I'll try and throw a few thoughts in. I might get lost when I'm trying to explain. I was interested, again, something that I already know, that human beings are kind of meaning-making machines. We like to make meaning of what's happening in our lives. And again, when you said that, I think for the first time I thought, and of course, all of that meaning comes from the way we're brought up, our society, it's socially constructed ideas and opinions and values. And therefore, and all of that is there so that we can fit in, or we have this idea of an identity that, or a group of people that we fit in with. So I don't know, when I was thinking of our thoughts getting in our way, then some of these thoughts are socially constructed. They're not really our thoughts. They're what we've learned in society. And so I can see how actually when we're thinking in a particular way, it might not actually be helpful. But in the sense that we might have an idea that we want to understand the world, then we need some of these concepts, or maybe we think we just need some of these concepts. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel there's something more I want to say, but I'm not really sure if I've really been clear in what I've said.
So let me see if I got it. Culture, society, our bringing up, our past, all the things that we've learned, it's all thought, all of it. It's there isn't anything that about any of that that isn't thought. So if you could start with that, then like we've had a difficult time in America lately because people, I don't know if it's in the water or what, but people are real interested in being right. And that, that means they have to see everybody else as wrong. And that's just people, that's just what happens when people don't know they're feeling, they're thinking. That they think there's only one way to think about something. And if you don't think about it that way, you're wrong. Right? That makes no sense at all, does it? No sense at all. Let me tell you a story. Is that okay? Some of you know this, I guess, but I did a project a few years ago where I went to, every Sunday morning, I went down to a kid prison for kids up to 18. It was about an hour away. I drove down there and spent Sundays for 2 years teaching this to kids in prison. And then I would see them when they got out too. And about, I don't know, a year into it, I guess, I was doing a group with a bunch of kids that had gotten out on parole. There were about, I don't know, 15 or 20 of them in my conference room. And I was about to start the meeting, and this kid next to me, he was, I think, about 17. He said, gee, can I say something? They called me G. I didn't, sometimes they called me OG, and I thought that just meant old grandmother. I never asked them. Turns out it means original gangster. Anyway, he said, gee, can I talk? And I said, sure. So he went around the room and he pointed to each kid and he said their name and the gang they were affiliated, if they were affiliated with one. And it was amazing. He got all the names and the gangs right. And I knew the names. It was immaterial to me what gang they belonged to. So all the kids are nodded. And when he got around to the end of the circle, he said, in the past, most of you have been my enemies. But I want you to know I have love for all of you. And I thought they were going to just, they were all boys. I thought they were all going to go, yeah, whatever, they didn't. They didn't. They started to talk about what the world would be like if everybody knew what they had learned. They said things like, there wouldn't be any war because people would know when they felt like going to war that their thinking was off. There would still be gangs though, but they would be gangs for good. They would do good things for people. And they for 45 minutes, they talked about that. I never said a word. I just could not believe. I mean, I learned that my expectations about doing the program were really low. I didn't expect this. I was just astonished. Now, all of these kids, not all, most of them had backgrounds that would just curdle your teeth. But that day, they were who they really were. And then they all went out for pizza together. Now, that's not possible unless you know it's all about thought. Is it? It just isn't. So I know that we can start thinking everything is really complicated and impossible because of culture, because of upbringing, because of traumatic experience, because of this, because of that, because of pigment, for heaven's sakes, skin color. It's like we can think all of those things are limitations to our lives. They are not. They are thoughts. And only taken seriously and believed can they be harmful to our lives. But we decide that. But see, if we didn't know we can decide that, we're stuck with the thoughts. It's that simple. But it's not easy to be simple when you've had so much faith in complications. But it's not, but all it is clumsy, it's awkward to remember, wait a minute, it's just my thinking. It's just their thinking. It doesn't mean, like it isn't right to tell somebody, for instance, I heard a story the other day that somebody just kind of just didn't know, told a woman who had been constantly battered by her husband that she should just relax and learn not to think so badly about it. And my first reaction was, what? Which is why I talk so much about, it's not about being happy, it's about being clear. So you know exactly what you need to do. You don't tell a woman she just needs to relax when she's around someone that's trying to kill her. Does that make sense? It's all about thought. It's about clearing the way so that you can see the next right step. And we are made able to do that. Our trouble comes from not knowing how well we're made. I wish it worked for me to say, just take my word for it, but it doesn't work. But if you would just consider the possibility that you're made with everything you need, and all experience is our thinking. But clarity is the point. Does that help?
Yeah, that was quite very helpful. I would like to ask more just now, but unfortunately I have to go because I've got a meeting at 5:30.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
And I was sitting thinking, oh, I want to come back into that and add more, but I really don't have time. But thank you very much, and I hope to see you all next week.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Anyone else? I'm having a great time, by the way, in case you're wondering.
Mavis, is it okay to come in?
Sure.
So just that point around, it's not about being happy, it's about being clear. It's perfect, actually. It's just the reason why I've been on the call. It's just cleared so many things up, just that clarity. Because one of my questions was, are the three principles enough? In terms of some of the complexities that we face. And I think that point has probably cleared some of that up.
Again, the three principles describe how we're made. They describe the origin of human experience. So the three principles are nothing. They're a description of what is. It's not something you use. The three principles isn't like a handy little, like a hammer or a screwdriver that helps. They're just the name of how it's like gravity is the name we gave to magnetic pull. The principles just describe how we're made, how all human experience comes about. And in my opinion, if we understand that, we will not be misusing our ability to create our experience by creating insecurity and hatred and we won't be creating toxicity because it won't feel right to do that. We'll know we're off. It's kind of like when you take your hand and you put it through a wall. It doesn't take much to realize that's not a particularly good use of your hand. We have the same feedback system with our ability to create our experience. And do I think that's enough? Absolutely. Without it, nothing works. Nothing works. If that's not first in our understanding, nothing much is going to turn out well. Does that make any sense, Lynn?
Absolutely, yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Mavis,
Okay.
I wonder if I could just share something that occurred to me, and it kind of built on an insight I had some time ago in an earlier conversation with you, which I came back to today was you were talking about any idea that we should have known better is wrong. We couldn't have known better. And that was really profound for me. And then I saw it really clearly, like, you know, the idea we don't go to primary school thinking we should have been able to perform at degree level. You know, it's ludicrous. There is a path, and I really saw that. But the thing that's come to me today from some of the questions people have raised and things that they've shared, and really going right back to what David in the introduction was saying, is this a course? And it's not, and yet it will almost certainly for all of us be an opportunity to learn more spiritually, to move from kindergarten towards the you know, and it isn't in our, you know, it's just by showing up, perhaps sharing or asking if something comes into our heart, you know, just not needing to have all the answers right away, not being in a rush, that think that more will be revealed. Just as you have very, you know, frankly said that it happens for you when you're answering questions that are put to you, answers come out that you didn't know you knew. And I find that very comforting. I find that, you know, an extremely enjoyable experience, an extremely lovely and effortless way to learn, and
yeah, me too.
Very nurturing. Very,
yeah. Me too. It's an odd thing that we think so much has to be said in order until we get something. But, you know, Sid Banks was walking along the beach one day with a friend. This is way before he ever saw what he saw. And he was complaining about pretty much everything he could think of. And then talked about how he was so insecure. He was just, life was just hard. And all his friend said to him was, "You're not insecure, you just think you are." Bam. Yeah, the mother of all insights. It's like he just, and he'll talk about it, that he just saw everything he needed to see. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't have bad moods. I was fortunate enough to see him a couple of times when he had bad moods, but they lasted about that long, and then he was over them. But one of the things I think that we need to realize is that if that can happen to one person, it can happen to any person, and that people have insights all the time, and that we didn't know that we can have something to say about how often we see something that we didn't see before, that we can create our own internal atmosphere, clarity in the moment to afford us the ability to see something a minute ago we didn't see. We're made out of the same stardust that Sid Banks was made out of. We don't want to teach ourselves or anybody else that kind of experience is only permitted for a few elite people. Not true. We are all made with the ability to, in an instant, see something we've never seen before. What an app. That's amazing. And you're made that way. Whoa. Like this, you guys may have heard this before, but just take this one little thing about how we're made. It's like you're looking at a screen right now, right? Look off to another part of your, wherever you are. Just now, you just, with intention, change the aperture in the lens of your eye. That's quite an app, don't you think? Just with intention. You're built that way. This is one tiny little piece of how you're made. As you turned, the lens and the aperture in the lens of your eye either shortened or lengthened. You may not be all that impressed right now, but that's kind of amazing. Or that the way you're sitting right now, if you're sitting in a position and you've been sitting that way for quite a while, your body's going to let you know it's time to shift. And you won't have to think about it, you can feel it. Isn't that kind of your body to let you know that? So that when you try to stand up, you won't fall over. I mean, that's really handy. Just see that, just those simple things. And one of those simple things is the ability to create from the inside out your moment-to-moment experience of your life for the duration of your life. You have guidance built in all the time. You know, every time I see that, I see it more. And I sometimes think, God, that would have been handy about the first 40 years of my life to know that, but I didn't know it. I didn't know it, and I did okay anyway, but there's a lot of suffering, a lot of difficulties that I had. A lot of things were made harder because I didn't know then what I know now. But so what? They make good stories. I didn't know until I knew. I couldn't have. And I can hardly wait to see what else there is to know. Because I bet we're all just on the tip of our own iceberg as far as what's possible to see. So I'm going to try as best I can to keep the busy thinking down so I'm clear. Because I don't want to be busy-headed when an important thing comes along and I miss it. I want to be clear. I want to be clear. I want to see what I don't see yet, because it is thrilling. It's also funny sometimes to realize something that I didn't see before, like it's always now. Can I give you guys a little bit of homework? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. The thing we did at the beginning, when you notice how you feel and you put your attention on it, as often as you think of that, would you do that between now and next week? So you get acquainted with the connection between your thinking and physical sensations. you get acquainted with yourself. You up for that? Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mavis, this has been lovely speaking for myself and I think for others, and I'm just thank you for that suggestion, and I'm more than happy to do that. And but I'm also noticing the time and the ways of the world have caught up with us. So I wonder if this would be a good place to leave it for this week.
Great. I'm having a good time with you folks. I'm grateful you showed up. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Mavis, and thank you everybody who's here. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of this, and also just reflecting on what what's been shared today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mavis. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mavis.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Thank you.
Stay
See you
safe
next
all.
week.
Everyone.
Good care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Can you switch record off, Mavis? You just press the record button again, I think, on the bottom.
I think it's.
Or you can just stop the meeting. You can just stop the meeting and I'll do it that way.
Stop recording right there.
Yeah, great.
Okay.